All right, folks. Today is Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. And this is actually my month end portfolio review for October. Uh, Sorry it's a bit late, but I've been traveling for work for the last week. And I'm just finally getting a little bit of time to sit down and kind of just look at everything and talk to you guys about it. Uh, it's a bit dark and stormy in San Diego today. We're having a little bit of a winter storm. It's quite unusual for us, but it's making the light level like very low, even though it's 2:30 in the afternoon. So it's kind of crazy, but it is what it is. So let's get into what's happening with the portfolio uh, overall through the month of October. So as of the end of October for the year, my entire portfolio is down about 15%. Uh, this compares to the S&P 500, which is down about 21.5%. So still doing better. What I've noticed, though, in the recent couple of days since the month has closed is that the performance gap between my personal portfolio and the S&P has been shrinking. And a lot of that is because I've been moving cash into the market. So I do expect it to tighten. But that's where we currently sit. So yeah, not bad, but not great either. So we'll take it for what it's worth. As to portfolio allocation, it remains roughly the same as it was last month. Really, the only percentage change is for market movement. Since I didn't make any big changes to the portfolio allocation itself, you'll see that my cash and short-term bonds are sitting at about 30% altogether. That's only about the only change that has happened recently. So I moved a lot of the cash just into short-term bonds. And I spoke about this before, but it's only because rates have gone up. So short-term bonds are actually making a lot more in interest than what I get for just holding it as pure cash in my portfolio. As to how I feel about the rest of the year, we have 2 months left. I actually feel pretty ambivalent, so it hasn't changed much. There have been a lot of things that I'm hearing from the news, from friends, from others that has caused me to do some thinking and try to see if I want to, do anything different. I don't think so, but it's just giving me some food for thought. So one of the big things that I've read and heard is that the Feds are going to reverse their aggressive rate hikes in early 23. And I've heard this from a number of sources, but I don't know quite, if I quite believe it. I think what could happen is that they slow down their rate hikes, but not necessarily reverse it. I read recently that it looks like they may try to target about 5% as the top range, maybe 5.5% in Q1 of 23, and then see what happens with inflation. So to me, this is not indicating that they're going to reverse their policy and start lowering rates again. But that was what I read. And I don't think I believe that. If it does happen, we're just going to see a huge run up in the market. But like I said, I don't think that's going to happen. There are some consequences, though, of keeping rates this high, which is that it's going to cost a lot more for both companies, private companies, public companies, and the government to service their debt. The U.S. debt is at some $31 trillion or something like that, last I heard. A lot of those debt are bonds that have previously been sold where in the low interest rate environment that we had before, the present. So servicing those debt on those existing bonds aren't that bad. But the government's still going to be affected because they are running a deficit, and I don't see that deficit going away. And for them to continue deficit spending, they're going to have to issue new bonds. And new bonds at these higher rates is going to cost them more to service that debt. And the same goes for companies, both private and public, especially the growth companies that are not generating revenue and are using debt to kind of run their business. It's going to cost them a lot more, and it's going to have an impact. What that impact is, I don't know. A clear example of this was Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. So before Friday, what was it, November 4th or something like that. Maybe it was the week before. Twitter was a public company. You can go buy and trade it. But as of that Friday, Elon Musk completed the buy and took the company private, and it got delisted. But what you're hearing is that because he's financing the acquisition of Twitter, he's paying something on the order of $1 billion a year in interest. I think it's $1 billion a year. I have to check. But if he spent $44 billion, and most of it is finance, that could make sense. $1 billion a year. So if you take $1 billion a year and you divide it by 12 months, you're looking at something like $80 million in interest a month. And if you believe what he's saying, that Twitter is burning $4 million in cash a day to operate, he's in big trouble. It's like $120 million to run the company every month. And if he has another 80 million of interest alone on top of that, he's gonna be hurting really bad. And that's why we saw that he cut the workforce at Twitter by half this last week. So pretty crazy stuff, and that's what I think is going to happen if this high interest environment sticks around. And like I said, in the previous point, I don't see any reason for it not to stick around. So it's just going to cause a lot of pain for some of these companies that are not financing their operations with profit, but rather through debt. What does that all mean? Who knows? I got to think more about it, but probably means that it's not a good idea to go heavy in growth stocks. Although, having said that, most of my risk parity stock allocation is in high cap growth. Fortunately, a lot of those, are big names that are generating profit, and even though they're considered quote unquote growth stocks, they're not financing their operations. I'm speaking of companies like Apple and Microsoft and Google, where they have plenty of profits to run their operations. And it's only a very small handful in that group that even has to finance their operations. So that's probably what it means, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. I have to do some more thinking about it. The other thing is, this talk about recession. Are we in one? Are we going to be one? And how bad is it? My personal feeling is that we're in a recession, but I don't think it's going to be that bad or that long. In my own company, I've heard about concerns about just certain uncertainties in the future outlook that's causing them to be more cautious. And you're seeing this in more and more companies. So I think we are already in a recession, but I don't think it will be a particularly deep one or very long one. It may be, medium term in terms of length, but I don't think it'll be that bad. But do I have any backup to this? I have no idea. No one has actually been called recession, so this is all speculation on my part, purely gut feeling. So those are the big things that I'm thinking about. But is it dissuading me from carrying out my plan? Not yet. So we'll just stick with it and see what happens. But thanks for watching. Apologies again that this is about a week late for the month-end review, but I've been really busy, so finally had a chance to sit down and just go through everything. But thanks for checking in and watching, and as always, come back for more of these videos. Later.